This is again mission number 5 for training for AV8B Harrier, but this time is with variable nozzle landing. So let's see.
In this short mission, you will practice landing using the stall flaps variable nozzle landing. It provides maximum performance in wave-off margins, and therefore it is recommended when landing at high field elevations during very hot weather or with very heavy ordnance load. So, for the variable nozzle slow landing, the procedure is as follows. Once the runway disappears from view below the nose of your aircraft, execute a brake by banking to the right. It is a level turn in which you will capture 4G in the beginning and then intercept and keep 10 units of angle of attack, or AOA. Remember about reducing the throttle. Hold that turn for 180 degrees until you are flying parallel to the runway at 244 degrees. You should enter this downwind leg at or below 250 knots indicated airspeed. Once leveled off, perform the landing checklist. Lower the landing gear, set flaps to stall mode. Check that the stow stop is clear and stowed aft. Check for positive duct pressure. Check that the brake pressure is 2700 psi with pedals depressed, and make sure that the water switch is set as required for landing performance. Approaching the 180 at 1.3 to 1.5 nautical miles abeam, around half the length of the runway beyond its starting point, set your throttle to between 90 and 100%. Initially set the nozzles between 50 and 60 degrees, and double check that your flaps are in stall. Switch to the radar altimeter by entering the VSTOL HUD master mode. In stall flaps, as you slow through 165 knots, your aircraft may balloon and pitch down as the flaps program and the ailerons droop. Verify that your droop light is on, adjust your nozzle angle to maintain 8 to 10 units of AOA, and use this nozzle angle as a reference for future adjustments. At the 180, begin your turn towards the runway. For reference, use the two small lakes near the airport. You want to almost get to their level. Control your descent with a stick and place the witch's hat 5 degrees nose down. Wait for your AOA to settle and adjust your nozzles to control AOA. If AOA is low, increase nozzle angle slightly. If AOA is high, decrease nozzle angle slightly. Avoid overshooting the target AOA by anticipating the nozzle movement and adjusting nozzle angle to capture 8 to 10 units of AOA. You are targeting between 500 and 600 feet AGL at the 90 and between 200 and 225 feet AGL when you roll out on final, or in the groove. On final, you may require a nozzle increase to remain on speed between 8 and 10 units of AOA. Throughout the turn, ensure that you are maintaining coordinated flight with your rudder. Avoid getting too slow and nozzling below 50 degrees in stall flaps. Doing so will cause the flaps to begin programming less than full, resulting in a potentially hazardous loss of lift and AOA increase. As you pass through 100 feet AGL, you may begin controlling your rate of descent with your throttle. Maintain a 3-degree glide path on final and fly a crabbed approach to ensure your aircraft is lined up on centerline. At around 50 feet AGL, assume landing attitude by placing the witch's hat at 2 degrees above the horizon. Continue to control your rate of descent with your throttle and attitude with the stick, with a rate of descent between 200 and 400 feet per minute. Do not allow the aircraft's nose to drop due to stabilator exhaust impingement. At touchdown, set the throttle to idle and make sure that you are rolling straight with the pedals neutralized before engaging nose wheel steering, or NWS. Set the nozzles to 98 degrees for power nozzle braking, or PNB. Trim for 2 degrees nose down and set the throttle no higher than 70% to slow the aircraft. As the aircraft slows below 60 knots ground speed, bring the throttle back to idle, place the nozzles to the hover stop, and use wheel brakes to finish slowing the aircraft. Set the water switch to off and bring the nozzles to 60 degrees. Set the nozzles to 10 degrees as you approach taxi speeds. That's about it. I will now let you focus on your approach. Select waypoint 2 and use the course dial knob to set the runway heading of 064. Make sure to align your aircraft with the course line. Arrive over the runway at 800 feet and 350 knots and fly straight until I tell you to turn. I will then be giving you abbreviated instructions.
So some crosswind landing. Not only we are very heavy, This will be interesting. Let's see how messy it will be. Not a lot of crosswind, but still.
Brake right, 4G level turn, AOA 10 units.
I cannot maintain the AOA at all.
Gear down, flaps to stall, and check stow stop. Enter VSTOL master mode. Throttle between 90 and 100%. Nozzles between 50 and 60 degrees.
Altitude, 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 altitude.
Turn towards runway, which is at 5 degrees nose down. Use nozzles to control AOA. Descend to 200 feet AGL on final.
No, it doesn't work. I don't really understand it. This is like the AOA.
Below 100 feet, use the throttle to control rate of descent. Fly crabbed approach. At 50 feet, put witch's hat 2 degrees above the horizon.
So I need to be faster anyway. And not go close to 60 degrees. Need to recenter. I think I need a lot of exercise for this.
Throttle to idle, then nozzles to 98 degrees. Throttle to 70%, trim 2 degrees nose down. Throttle to idle, nozzles to the hover stop. Use brakes to stop the aircraft. Very good. Taxi to the parking spot and shut down your engine.
Caution, caution. Caution. Caution, caution.
Okay. So this is difficult, but since we need to stay around 60 degrees nozzle, so just don't get too close or don't pass it. Basically, that's the idea. And it still feels better with the throttle, the control.